Hello, my name is Susan Knowlton, and I'm with Corteva Agriscience. And Corteva is the world's leading supplier of high oleic seeds, including high oleic soybean. Today, what I'd like to talk to you about is using high oleic soybean oil as a replacement for palm oil and/or palm oil fractions in both food service and food manufacturing applications. Now, I'm sure most of you know that commodity soy and palm oil are two of the most widely consumed oils in the world. Palm is number one, with 36% of oils consumed in the world being palm oil. Soy follows closely behind at just 28%. In the US, the story is a little different. Soy is the most widely consumed oil in the US and enjoys a 56% consumption rate, while palm is a distant fourth at just 8%. But despite its popularity, commodity soy does have some drawbacks, which have led researchers to develop newer soybean varieties, like high oleic soy, which fix some of the issues that commodity soy has. So I think most of you are aware that commodity soybean oil is rich in unstable polyunsaturated fatty acids, which cause problems with the oil during storage as well as cooking and frying. And it's these unstable polyunsaturated fatty acids, linoleic and linolenic acids, that undergo oxidation reactions. And these oxidation reactions have real-world consequences for the food industry. Things like, for example, cleaning and maintenance issues. When oils oxidize, they polymerize, and they form almost a varnish on pieces of equipment, including fryers and fryer baskets, which this varnish is very difficult to remove and causes increased maintenance costs. As well, when fry oils polymerize like that, the oils will foam up, causing a safety issue for the operator. And worst off, oxidation causes the development of rancid flavors and odors, which of course lowers the quality of the food being prepared and served. Now, for many years, the food industry used hydrogenation as a means to lower these polyunsaturated fatty acids and make soybean oil stable for the food industry. However, as we now know, hydrogenation creates trans fats, and trans fats have negative health consequences, including linkage to coronary heart disease. But up until now, there has not been a high-stability soybean oil, soy-based trans fat solution for the food industry to use. And I say up until now because we now have high oleic soybean oil on the market today. So high oleic soybean oil was created genetically to decrease the unstable polyunsaturated fatty acids of conventional soybean oil. So we use genetics rather than hydrogenation to change the composition. You can see in this slide the comparison of the fatty acid composition of conventional soybean oil compared to high oleic soybean oil. And first off, you can see that we've increased the oleic acid content quite dramatically, from something around 22% in commodity soybean oil to something close to 76% in high oleic soybean oil. And likewise, we've decreased those polyunsaturated fatty acids from over 60% in conventional soy to less than 10% in high oleic soy, making a very stable oil. We've also decreased the saturated fatty acid content in high oleic soy by about 20%. So we've got a very large reduction in the unstable fatty acids and a very large increase in stability, as you'll see in the next few slides, without the production of trans fatty acids. Today, there are large multinational companies in the US that are using high oleic soybean oil in both food service and food manufacturing sectors. And they're using it because high oleic soybean oil has exceptional oxidative stability. Oxidative stability can be measured in a test called the OSI, or Oxidative Stability Index. And in this test, the higher the number, the more stable the oil. In the chart, you can compare high oleic soy with an OSI value of about 30 hours to commodity soy with a OSI value of somewhere around 5 to 6 hours. That's a 5-fold increase in stability. But palmoline is a relatively stable oil, and one of the reasons why it's popular outside the US, because it can hold up to oxidation and heat that other oils can't, even other high oleic oils. You can see in this chart that the high oleic canola and high oleic sun top out with OSI values in the high teens, 17 and 18 OSI hours, whereas palmoline typically has a value in the high 20s, or 27 in this case, and again, the high oleic soy at 30 OSI hours. This makes high oleic soy one of the most stable oils commercially available and on the market today. Because both oils are very stable oils, palm and high oleic soy share similar food application targets, things like cooking and frying oil for increased fry life, as an ingredient oil for extended shelf life, non-dairy creamers and applications that require high heat and oxidative stability, and shortenings for solid fat applications that also can extend shelf life. So for this reason, we wanted to run some comparative studies comparing high oleic soy and palmoline in a variety of different accelerated tests which predict performance in different applications. And I'll show you these in the next couple of slides. First, from a fatty acid composition standpoint, palmoline and high oleic soy are pretty different. This slide shows you the fatty acid compositions of the soy and palm products we tested. Palmoline, as you can see, is quite high in palmitic acid, a saturated fat, with the oil having over 40% saturated fatty acids. High oleic soy has less than 12% saturated fats. And as its name would indicate, high oleic soy is high in oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat, with about 76% oleic acid in the oil. High amounts of oleic acid are found in other healthy oils like olive oil. Both palmoline and high oleic soy have less than 10% polyunsaturated fats, so from that standpoint, they are similar, and that is what makes them both stable to oxidation. Both palm and soy are rich in antioxidants, which are minor components of oils, but the types of antioxidants found in the two oil types differ. High oleic soy is rich in tocopherols, while palm is rich in tocotrienols. Together, they are referred to as tocols. Both tocopherols and tocotrienols are members of the vitamin E family, and they contribute to resistance to oxidation. Both oil types have 4 forms of tocols: alpha, beta, gamma, and delta, with both soy and palm being highest in the gamma form. Both tocopherols and tocotrienols deliver antioxidant properties, and both types are good for human health by aiding in the prevention of certain types of cancers, heart disease, and other chronic ailments. When looking at the color, high oleic soy and palmoline are quite different. High oleic soybean oil is a clear, very light yellow liquid oil, whereas you can see the palmolines are a deep yellow. For some applications, this deep yellow color is a negative, particularly in shortenings or other types of applications where you want the final product to be white. One of the first evaluations we ran was a fry test to see which oil provided longer fry life, high oleic soy or palmoline. You may be aware that one of the best indicators of when to discard your oil is a measurement of total polar compounds. In fact, in many countries, restaurants and institutions are required by law to discard their oil when it reaches a value of 25% or more total polars. This is because the products of oxidation are generally unhealthy, and as the oil breaks down, the food absorbs much of these unhealthy compounds. So I've drawn a red dotted line at 25% to indicate the proper discard point for a fry oil. You can see in the case of the two palm products, they've reached 25% in just over 6 days of frying, whereas the high oleic soy did not reach that point until almost 15 days. That's 7 extra days of frying when using high oleic soy, money in the bank, and about double the fry life. In addition to longer fry life, another attribute where we see an advantage for high oleic soy over palmoline is the difference in foaming. This graph shows measurement of foam height taken over time following submersion of food on day 8 of the fry test. Foam height of the palmoline was almost twice that of the foam height of high oleic soy. Foaming represents a safety issue and also reflects the degradative polymerization of the oil. As I just mentioned, foaming results from excessive buildup of polymers in the oil, which can then be deposited on the surfaces of equipment. And this tarnish-like material is very difficult to remove and causes increased maintenance and cost. In our test, we didn't photograph differences in polymer deposits between high oleic soy and palmoline, but it's important to note that high oleic soy develops very little of this polymeric buildup. The photographs on this slide compare conventional soy and high oleic soy on frying equipment after 12 days of frying. The difference between the two is dramatic, not only on the fryers themselves, but also ancillary pieces of equipment like fryer baskets. In these fry tests, we did not see significant differences in free fatty acid accumulation between palmoline and high oleic soy, as shown in this slide. Nor were there large differences in color development, with the palm products having just slightly more color development compared to high oleic soy. So to summarize our fry tests, we saw a significant advantage in food service for high oleic soy over palmoline, particularly as it relates to the cost savings resulting from longer fry life and performance improvements to operations. However, we were also interested in understanding the differences between palm and high oleic soy in food manufacturing. And one of the most important attributes in packaged goods is shelf life. And any extension in shelf life can improve not only the food quality, but also the associated cost savings. One test to project shelf life is the Schaal oven test, which is an accelerated aging test where the primary oxidation reactant peroxide value is measured over time as the oils sit at an elevated temperature. And a good rule of thumb for this test is that 1 day in the oven is about equivalent to 1 month on the shelf. And in this test, you want to be the lowest line on the chart. That is, you want to accumulate the least amount of peroxides over time. And as you can see, high oleic soy is indeed the lowest line on the chart and degrades at the slowest rate compared to all of the other oils in the test, including palmoline. As we discussed earlier, palm is a highly saturated fat, and therefore it's not surprising that foods prepared in palm, particularly those with a high fat content, such as fried foods, would show a high saturate content on the nutrition facts panel on food labels. A comparison of the facts panel of French fries prepared in either palm or high oleic soybean oil is shown on this slide, with the saturated fat content listed at 7% for high oleic soy versus 22% for palm. That's a significant increase in saturated fat content without any benefit to the consumer to offset the negative health implications. Now, another category that has seen a lot of success in the US has been the use of high oleic soy for the preparation of shortenings, particularly important for the baked goods sector. And high oleic soy is a liquid oil, of course, but it can be used as a blend component as a high stability liquid oil, which is then coupled with a source of solid fat to create the shortening. Using interesterification, shortenings can be made which are lower in saturated fat and have improved handling characteristics compared to palm-based shortenings. And high oleic soy shortenings have a better saturate profile. That is, they're rich in stearic acid, which is a saturated fatty acid that does not carry the same negative health impacts as palmitic acid-based shortenings. And in fact, work has been carried out supported by the Qualisoy organization, which demonstrated that high oleic soy-based shortenings performed almost identically to partially hydrogenated soy-based shortenings and superior to that of palm in a variety of solid fat applications, as shown in this slide, including icings, cakes, and cookies. And you'll note that in each case, no matter the functionality being measured, high oleic soy matched the performance of the partially hydrogenated shortening as indicated by the red arrow, and both of these were distinctly different from the palm-based shortenings. And speaking of saturated fat and its impact on human health, it's important to note that a clinical trial has been conducted on high oleic soy by David Baer from the USDA Human Nutrition Center, which demonstrated that high oleic soy provides for improved functionality in food while still supporting healthy blood lipid profiles, reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease. David and his colleagues set out to examine 2 applications for high oleic soy, both as a liquid oil and as a solid fat shortening. And the study design is shown on this slide. You can see that it was a randomized crossover double-blind controlled diet trial. There were 60 participants of varying age, and oils were incorporated into a variety of different foods. There were 4 treatments. In the liquid oil category, there was soybean oil compared to high oleic soybean oil. And then in the solid fat application category, you have high oleic soy plus a fully hydrogenated soy hard stock versus palm plus palmoline. In summarizing the results of the trial, David and his colleagues found that high oleic soybean oil consumption resulted in a similar lipid and lipoprotein profile to that of commodity soybean oil for everyday liquid oil use, and that when blended with a fully hydrogenated hard stock, the high oleic blend shortening resulted in improved lipid and lipoprotein profiles compared to that of the palm-based blend. And this last finding is quite exciting, of course, because many companies have been searching for alternatives to palm for a variety of different reasons. And this finding supports the use of high oleic soy in solid fat applications critical to the baking industry. And it's clinical trial data like that, along with a lot of other data, that has led the FDA to approve a qualified health claim for high oleic oils in general, including high oleic soy. And that health claim reads, supportive but not conclusive scientific evidence suggests that daily consumption of high oleic oils may reduce the risk of coronary heart disease. To conclude, we think of high oleic soy as the reinvention of soybean oil, and that's because it's really so different from the commodity oil. It's a high stability oil that we developed specifically for the food industry. It has a heart-healthy fatty acid profile, which is high in monounsaturated fat and low in saturated fat. And it has superior functionality compared to other oils, including palm oil products, which we talked about today. It's a stable oil for frying, providing clean flavor and long fry life. It has longer shelf life for packaged goods without the addition of antioxidants. And it's a high stability liquid-based oil for the creation of lower saturate shortenings. And with that, I'd like to conclude today. I wish I could have been there in person, but I hope you enjoyed this video instead. I thank you so much for your attention.